Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week, as he does most weeks, is our co-host, KC Knockout Onyebuchi.
I believe this week I'm just going to go by the name of T'Challa. Wakanda forever.
I got to see the movie on Friday night.
Oh,
dude,
I kind of wish that they had a little more MMA training because the fight scene with Killmonger and the Black Panther could have been a little better.
Well, you know, that's the thing. But whenever they pulled out the armored rhinos, it didn't really matter what the moves were moving. You had to contend with freaking armored rhinos.
There's that. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
But, you know, Black Panther is a Marvel, and Marvel is DC, and Jeremy Stevens worked his magic in Orlando, Florida, home of Walt Disney World.
That's just beautiful radio.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that segue.
Thank you so much. And he continued his ascent to a title shot. He's got to get a title shot after this week.
Little heathen. That dude was on fire.
He was. With his devastating finish of Josh Emmett. And Josh Emmett was a higher-ranked fighter. But before we get to the main event, let's look at some of the other key fights from Saturday night in a segment we like to call The Official Decision. The Official Decision. This is The Official Decision, where we look at the key fights from this past weekend. Listen, I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way. Olear Latifi choked out Ovince StPreux, my fraternity brother.
Choked out? I thought he murdered him.
Well, you know what? The ref was on the wrong side. Like Ovince StPreux is tapping Olear Latifi, like, okay, I'm done. The ref's on the wrong side. So he's slowly going out of consciousness, and you got a big 6'4", what is he? 205-pound Ovince StPreux just goes collapsing on the ground. It's bad.
He was on the other side of the choke this time around. That standing guillotine was in tight.
Well, and the thing is, if you've ever seen Olear Latifi, this dude is a Swedish guy, right? But oh my gosh, I guess my mental image of Swedish people are like tall, blonde. This guy is a short, squat, bald-headed dude with muscles upon top of muscles.
The dude is a ball of muscle. I think I saw a video of him doing 405 deadlifts for 33 reps. Who does that?
I do.
Not 4 or 5, but 405.
Oh, yeah, okay.
405.
What was interesting is during the fight, Daniel Cormier is an Olympic wrestler. He's also the champion of that division that they fight in. He said he has trained with Olear Latifi, and he is one of the most difficult people he's experienced to get down, to take down to the ground. And this is an Olympic wrestler trying to take this guy down. So that's just to give you a little insight.
Heck of a compliment. Yeah.
So I also want to comment on this combination that Latifi threw and hit Ovince StPreux with.
Yep.
Because he hit Ovince StPreux and had OSP falling around like Czech Congo and Pat Barry.
Oh, you mean the greatest fighter ever, Czech Congo? Like, seriously, hands down, one of the best. He's going into the Hall of Fame.
He's going into the Hall of Fame for the biggest waste of talent in the history of mixed martial arts.
I can't get you today, but one of these days, I'm going to get you on your Czech Congo kick again.
So this harkens back to, I think it was 2011, where Czech Congo, who was a heavyweight, fought Pat Barry, who is the significant other of Rose No Hair Namajunas.
Rose No Hair is the baddest.
And so Pat Barry hits Czech Congo. Czech Congo falls down. Pat Barry goes in to finish. Czech Congo stands up. Pat Barry knocks him down again. And it's just like that, that little, you probably don't because you're only like 15 years old. But there's a clown and you punch him.
The Weeble Wobble?
The Weeble Wobble, yes.
Come on now. I mean, I'm young, but yeah, I'm just young.
Okay, so Chet Congo's falling down and standing up like a Weeble Wobble, and then as Pat Barry goes in to finish the fight, Chet Congo throws this invisible punch that lands on Pat Barry and knocks him out. I was thinking that the same thing was going to happen in this fight with Ovince StPreux and Olear Latifi, but it did not. It ended in a choke, and it was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Okay. All right. Jessica Andrade defeated Tecia Torres.
Andrade is crazy strong.
Yes, she is. She is straight
crazy strong.
So do you know what her nickname is? Her nickname is Pile Driver.
Oh, that sounds about right.
You know, it would sound even better if I could speak Portuguese, but unfortunately,
Fala Português.
Yeah, so it's Pile Driver in Portuguese, which I can't say it, so we're just gonna go with Pile Driver.
Just give it a shot.
No, do you know why she got that nickname?
She murdered a man at a construction site.
Very close. She got disqualified for pile driving an opponent in the middle of a fight.
Dear God. I can't believe that I was that close. That's terrible.
This is how strong she is. Now, just for you people who didn't get a chance to see this fight.
You people.
I said you people. We're talking about Black Panther, so it works. The
post-production.
Jessica Andrade, it's 115 pounds. Like, these girls are 115 pounds. Women, I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. It's like, this is the non-PC Ryan. She's 115 pounds, and she's picking up Tecia Torres and throwing around like a rag doll.
At will.
Yes.
To me, the 10 takedowns were crazy impressive, but more so than that, her chin is rock solid. She's eating left, right, and walking forward while being punched.
Yes.
It's as though she felt no pain.
Yeah, it was one of those things where if you ever want to see just a fight where people are not afraid of each other and they're not like, it's this fight right here, because Tecia Torres is throwing everything she's got and Andrade is just walking right through them, throwing bombs herself. I mean, it wasn't just takedowns. It was like she's reaching back from last week and throwing punches into next week.
I feel like a great soundtrack for that fight would be Won't Back Down. Because, I mean, to give Torres some love, too, I mean, she stayed in the fight. She did her best to circle, but, man, I mean, neither one of them was afraid to exchange, and they showed it. I mean, there was a lot of missed connections on some of these shots taken, but that's to be expected from people who are equally good at delivering and slipping shots. So really interesting striking match that took place there, along with the world-class wrestling.
So absolutely, they never got tired. It was just a competitive fight. I was disappointed that fight did not get a Fight of the Night award. Let's talk about the main event. Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens defeated Josh Emmett via knockout in round 2.
Did he?
He did. But in the first round, I thought it was going to go the other way because Emmett had a right hook that knocked Stevens down in the first round. It was near the end of the round, and I thought it was going to be a finish, but Jeremy Stevens survived and then came back with a left hook to knock Josh Emmett down in the second round, and then the controversy started.
Well, I mean, I got to give him love on that because that left was almost a boom, rocked him moment.
Yeah, like, it was almost. It stunned him. It was almost, but you know what was? So after the controversy, which we'll get to, then Josh Emmett rolls on his back and off the top of Mount Olympus.
The elbow from
the elbow from lightning the gods. Bolt from Zeus. Jeremy Stevens lands an elbow to the side of Josh Emmett's face, and the fight is OVER.
Yeah, I think that elbow's got to be called Hermes now, the messenger of the gods, because he brought a message, and the message was good night. No, come on. Mount Olympus, we were going.
It was a lightning bolt. Zeus, lightning bolt. You're like, it's Hermes. We should call it
Hermes or Mercury? I can't remember which one.
Mercury would be
versus Roman.
Mercury would be Roman. Well, since we said Zeus, because it would be Jupiter if it was Roman. So since I went with Zeus, that's Greek. So you have to go Hermes. But why Hermes when you've got a lightning? You're channeling the lightning bolt.
I mean, he's not Thor.
Come on, T'Challa.
Look, we've exhausted all of my fantasy knowledge. Let's get back to reality, where in reality, Stevens cheated.
All right, so this fight was not without controversy, and what happened was when Jeremy Stevens landed that left hook, Emmons collapsed. Jeremy Stevens starts trying to finish the fight, throwing these punches to him while he's on the ground. And as Emmons is trying to stand up, Jeremy Stevens throws a knee, which there's a rule in the UFC that says, or rule in MMA, but it's also in the UFC, that if an opponent is downed, and what's the definition of being down?
You have 3 points of contact with the ground. Right.
So either one hand, two knees, 2 hands, one knee, whatever. So in this case, it was Emmett had 2 knees and 1 hand on the ground as he was starting to stand up, and Stevens throws this knee, but the knee does not land.
Does it? I mean, we've watched that frame by frame.
We've watched it frame by frame. And so, okay, unless you count the recoil, after he throws the knee and his knee is coming back down, it kisses the back of Emmett's head, but it doesn't stop him. It wasn't a blow.
My thing with that is, okay, yeah, so in slow motion, in that when you break it down frame by frame, you can see that it may not have landed clean or flush. In real time, from whatever angle you're looking, in real time, it looks like, oh, man, he knocked his head back. So how was the ref supposed to know any different?
Okay,
the ref wasn't watching frame by frame. In real time, Stevens kneed his opponent in the head.
No, in real time, you see the knee miss, and Dan Merliata is standing right there. When the knee comes back down, it touches the back of Emmett's head, but Emmett doesn't react to it. It is not something that he didn't get knocked out because the knee touched the back of his head. So
yeah, but to say that he didn't react to it, I mean, what was his reaction going to be? To fall more? Like, he's on the ground.
Yes, to fall more, because we've seen when someone gets hit in a, let's use, your favorite fighter, Dustin Poirier.
Oh, okay.
You see, well, you would. Dustin Poirier, when he got hit in the back of the head by Conor McGregor as Conor was throwing that punch with an elbow. So Conor's punch misses, the elbow lands in the back of his head, and Dustin Poirier reacts and goes to the ground and falls. Like, we've seen people get hit.
Yeah, but that didn't end in disqualification. That's a great point for a fight that should have been a no contest.
Well, it's not a no contest, and we're getting off the subject. It's not a no contest because his head was moving. He moved his head into a place where he would get hit by another body part. You can't get in trouble for that. But that's neither here nor there. This, folks that are listening to me and KC go back and forth about this is not as entertaining as listening to Dominick Cruz and Daniel Cormier, a current champ and a former champ, both working. Well, Daniel Cormier is also a former champ, twice, and two of the UFC's best doing color commentary, arguing with each other about this particular knee. Now, here's why it's a big deal. Because Dominick Cruz is a training partner and a friend of Jeremy Stevens. Josh Emmett, Stevens' opponent, is a member of Team Alpha Male, who Dominick Cruz hates everything about Team Alpha Male. With a passion. So to dig into this and to feel like, and to stand on the side of, this was not an illegal knee, this knee did not land, which it didn't. You can go back and look at it. Just type you just search for it on.
Yeah. I was like, yes, go on.
You would want to type Jeremy Stevens, Josh Emmett, illegal knee to see the video. Or what we'll do is we'll put it on the page so that you can see the knee. Hey, KC, can you set up a Science. The brain is working today. A poll on the Facebook page to see what our listeners think.
Yeah, for sure. And all the correct listeners will side with me.
All the ones that need to be corrected, you're right. So this was an interesting thing. We've kind of gotten off track here, but the fact is that it became a huge controversial discussion that had no impact on the outcome of the fight.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
I'll give you that.
Okay, so just wrapping up UFC on Fox 28. Max Griffin defeated Platinum Mike Perry. We're going to get back into Mike Perry and what would happen with him and his girlfriend and Colby Covington in the next segment. Renan Barão lost.
How? That's just a nuts thing.
That
dude was ready for his comeback.
I thought so too. He's fighting at a new camp. They've changed some things. They thought he was going to just come out, and he just got handled. He's lost 4 of his last 5. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. It's crazy. And before we go out of this segment, I have a message.
Oh yeah, you owe the fans a little mea culpa.
What's that?
I'm just Miss Hill.
I know.
I was like, wait, come on.
Angela Hill, Overkill, M'Lady. For months, I have ridiculed you. I have said that I have never seen you win a fight, even though. For every 2 fights you win, you lose 1. You're doing really well. I finally, this weekend, got to see you win a fight. And I want to personally apologize for making jokes about you and congratulate you on a successful victory this past weekend.
And I would personally like to congratulate and welcome you, Ryan, to the hype train.
No.
Not ready to jump on yet?
No. I fortunately I have the button that plays the hype train, and I am not playing it. No. I watched that fight. Yes, she won it, but no.
Awesome.
You hadn't won me as a fan, Angela Hill. You did win a fight. I got to watch it, so I can't say I've never seen you win a fight. But you got a long way to go, my lady, for me to get on that hype train. So I'm just letting you know now. You got anything else for this card?
Nothing at all.
All right. Well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to close the book on this. We're going to put it on the shelf because this card is history. Now, let's get into the headlines making waves in the wake of this past weekend with Fighting the Angles. Finding the Angles. This is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at some of the headlines and what people are talking about in the MMA world. And what are people talking about? They're talking about Colby Covington.
Yeah, I was like, are they? And then I realized Colby Covington is the worst human being ever. Just ever.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bit much, but he's a terrible human being.
He's probably the worst human being in the UFC. Like, I'm trying to think of who would be worse. Like, Nate Diaz gets into heaven before Colby Covington.
I can't make that prediction, but I would say just as far as I don't even know what scale. Like, so let's talk about what happened here.
Okay,
I'll let you give the rundown.
All right, so Mike Perry, Platinum Perry, fought on Saturday night, and he got handled. I mean, the dude got beat up really, really bad. Well, Mike Perry, who's a loudmouth himself, I'm not going to absolve him from him being a loudmouth, but his girlfriend is one of his trainers. And so he's posted videos standing on the beach. She's holding the pads while he's, working some of his combos and things like that. And so after the fight, Colby Covington goes to Twitter and he writes the following: "Hey, at Platinum Perry, maybe having your ratchet, horse-faced girlfriend as your head trainer isn't the smartest idea on planet Earth. But hey, when you're the product of cousins, blank word, in Ocala, Florida, how strong can your decisions-making skills be? Hashtag UFC Orlando."
Problematic statements for multiple reasons. It doesn't promote a fight, so we can't call it promo talk.
Nope.
It's just pure hatred. Colby, it doesn't position Colby at all within the division any better. So there's literally no place for this conversation to be had.
Right. And this follows Mike Perry getting smashed. Like, the dude is already beaten up. You're going to kick him while he's down and then call his girlfriend ugly? I mean... Yeah,
it's the ultimate insult to injury there. It's literally an insult added to injury.
So the whole MMA community, I mean, that's the thing, is that when you have a sport that needs conflict in order to sell, when you have someone who goes over the line, it made me feel good to know that the fighters came out in droves to condemn Colby Covington for what he did.
Yeah, that was kind of good to see. What I would have loved to see is not just the fighters, but Dana White speak up for once. Speak up on this. It's strange because there's things that you can't say at a press conference. We know this because community service has been doled out to fighters for insensitive words. Right. How is this not one of those things that, yes, it's not at a press conference, but this does nothing to help the image, not just of UFC, but combat sports in general?
Well, and I can tell you why, and that's because when you call out a fighter's girlfriend, that doesn't result in droves of people from a community, whether it be the LGBT community or some other community, won't come out and demand retribution for the act. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is how much pain does the UFC feel when Colby Covington says something like this? None. So they're not going to do anything about it. Even though it's wrong, even though it's about as low as you can get from a professional standpoint, he's gonna get away scot-free with this. But all I do know is this: the line that's forming to beat up Colby Covington is getting longer and longer and longer, and he is like you falling out of the ugly tree. He's gonna hit every single branch on the way down.
I love the subtle dig there. What I'd love to see is Usman get a shot at Colby. As much trash has been talked, I mean, of all the people being vocal about they want a shot at Colby, I think Usman's got a great case and presents a fight, because Colby has to take a fight before the title. Right. He just has to. Right. He's not going to get a shot anytime soon. So I personally think that having him focused on fighting might help us get away from his Twitter fingers a bit.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on from that one. Conor McGregor offers to fight Frankie Edgar at 222.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of me offering to fight Jon Jones. It's a fight that we know is never going to happen. Like, Conor stepping in and saying, hey, I want to fight, it's nice to say afterwards. And from various reports, he actually did say he wanted to do it, but in the back of his mind, he knew that there was no way the UFC would allow that to happen because there's no time to promote the fight, and the fighters aren't going to make the maximum amount of money that they could for it. And not only that, but the UFC is not going to make enough money for it. So, yeah, you can have a last second say, hey, Conor came in and stepped in to save this card, but Conor has every excuse under, oh, well, this is a short notice fight and there's going to be all these tweaks. And Conor is becoming notorious in his negotiating that it takes forever for him to get a contract signed. So there is literally no way that UFC 222 was going to happen for Conor. It's just a nice talking point to keep him relevant because everyone has thrown out the defender vacate and they want to see Conor fight. Prove that you still are in this. But what this has done is made Conor stand behind his word of saying, no matter what happens, I will fight again. I'm the best at it. So we'll see.
So there's one thing that you left out.
Yep.
So I got this from MMA Fighting. It says, Edgar said he spoke to his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, to investigate McGregor's claims. Abdelaziz told Edgar that while McGregor did indeed ask for the short notice fight at UFC 222, the Notorious asked for it to be for a 165-pound UFC title, which does not exist.
That sounds about right.
So Conor McGregor, not only did he do all those things that you said, but he challenged Frankie Edgar to a fight in a weight class that doesn't exist for a title shot that he hasn't defended a single title that he currently holds. By the way, Conor McGregor is 451 days into not defending his title.
And counting.
So why is it that Conor McGregor would even broach the conversation of let's fight for the 165-pound title when there's a 170-pound weight class right there? I mean...
well, it keeps him relevant without having to actually do his job.
Yeah. So I think that was pretty ridiculous. You know, if Conor wants to fight at a weight class higher than 155, yeah, I'm sure Tyron Woodley would love... I mean, even with one hand tied behind his back right now, I'm pretty sure he'd love to get in the ring with Conor McGregor.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, that's the money fight that he's looking for. Win, lose, or draw. He's paid.
So talking about someone being paid, Brock Lesnar FaceTiming with Dana White.
Yeah, hard to say whether or not this is a publicity stunt. You've got Brock Lesnar's contract within the WWE up for either renewal or just maybe it's time for Brock to move away. So Brock is notoriously good at negotiation tactics and will often use the UFC as a counteroffer towards whatever the WWE is putting out there. So this could just be gamesmanship of him showing, hey, there's some other options, you better pay me correctly. Or he's actually looking into this, and we've seen in the past where Brock has gotten USADA kind of passes on, hey, yeah, we know that because of your other job, steroids are part of it, and so they make some exception for him. So this could very well be the starts of the fight that was teased while Jon Jones was temporarily champion, and he challenged Brock Lesnar at heavyweight, which that was a money fight, and Jon Jones called it exactly what it was. But this may very well signal that with Jones's pending USADA case happening and all the signs pointing towards a lighter sentence than what was originally mentioned, that this could very well happen. So I personally would be interested to see it, unless we can find a DC Jon Jones fight that gets put together. Well,
all I got to say about Brock Lesnar is I don't care. Brock Lesnar, the sport has passed Brock Lesnar by. I mean, he was a flash in the pan in the UFC, and now I don't think that Brock Lesnar beats Stipe Miocic. I don't think that he beats Fabricio Verdum. I really don't think that he beats Francis Ngannou.
But
sure,
the last one becomes
Alistair.
The best fight for Brock Lesnar. I mean, you've got these two monsters in there who are going to slug it out. That'd be something to watch.
Slug it out for 5 minutes and then gas and then lay on the ring, looking up at the lights, trying to figure out what they're going to do for the next 10 to 20 minutes.
Just make a gentleman's agreement like, hey, I'm tired. You're tired?
Yeah.
Let's just take a knee.
They go from real wrestling to thumb wrestling. So you brought up Jon Jones. Jon Jones is finally getting his day in court, if you will. He's USADA hearing. That's the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency.
Yep.
His hearing is on February 27th.
Oh, that's coming right up.
Yeah, that's like tomorrow. Is that it? Is it tomorrow? Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Today is the 26th. That is correct.
It's tomorrow. So we're going to find out what the penalty is.
Well, we'll find out what the USADA penalty is. We still don't know. We have heard absolutely nothing from the UFC on their position on this, other than Jon Jones finally got his first conversation with Dana White last week.
I argue that you are not going to see a penalty from the UFC. It's not going to happen. If Jon Jones gets a slap on the wrist from USADA, I mean, the fact is he's been out almost a year already. So if they give him a year, I would assume that they would consider time served, and he gets back in the ring this year. With the UFC needing a star right now, I don't see why they would go and lay some heavy fine or some heavy suspension on Jon Jones. It just, people want to see him fight, and now that he's gotten this infamous reputation, it only makes sense to bring him back. Oh, yeah. Even better now. Yeah. So I want to see Jon Jones come back. I'd love to see him fight someone other than Daniel Cormier. I don't want to really see. I'd love to see Jon Jones versus Cain Velasquez at light heavyweight. How about that?
Ooh, that is a very interesting matchup, and we still get to see DC cry.
All right. Well, that is Finding the Angles. There's one more segment left, and that is the fight card. It's a pay-per-view weekend this weekend, and the UFC is coming back to Las Vegas, Nevada, where Chris Cyborg defends her featherweight title, 145 pounds, against Yana Kunitskaya.
Nailed it.
I did nail it. But before we talk about that fight, let's go through some of the other fights on this card, because there are some good fights. There's some people that we like. Let me say it that way.
There's some people that we like.
There are people that we like on this card.
I'm interested actually in because I want to be more holistic in how we look at the UFC and talk about some fights that may not make it on the main card side of things but still matter. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to see Dodson drop down to a prelims level fighter.
Yeah, so Jon Dodson once was he's like a two-time main event fighter, fighting against Demetrius Johnson, and now he's fallen to the point where he's now on the prelims. And prelims is really for the rookies and the people who don't have names. You know, that's where Renan Barão was last week. And, you know, it's just a sign that these fighters are if you know, they're one or two losses away from being cut from the UFC.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll see if he can get his career back on track. I mean, part of this may just be, let's just be honest, his weight division doesn't get a lot of love. It's you don't see a lot of knockouts in this weight division. It's just a lot of good, solid scraps. Dodson, the magician, he's got varied fighting styles. So hopefully we'll see some good action here in the prelims.
The biggest challenge that Dodson faces is the fact that because Demetrius Johnson is so dominant at 125 pounds, Jon Dodson has had to go up to 135. So he's fighting fighters that are bigger than what he's normally fighting.
Yep.
And while he had some success on the Ultimate Fighter at that weight, or no, it was 125 that they fought in the Ultimate Fighter. But still, it's one of those things where fighting at these heavier weights, he doesn't have the same strength and speed advantages that he has at 125.
Yep.
But on the main card, one of our favorites, Alpha Cat Zingano, comes back. Like it has been a while. It has been a long time since we've seen Cat Zingano.
She's been living her best life, though. I'd love to see what that training has looked like. She's done a lot of family stuff and just been focused on living a healthier life. But she's got some goals in front of her, and this is step one to her ultimate.
All right. Well, hey, there's a heavyweight clash. Stefan the Skyscraper Struve versus Andre the Pitbull Arlovsky.
This is one of my least favorite fights on this card. Struve is, I'll grant, he's a skilled fighter, but he's just so long and slow. It's tough for me to get excited about his fight.
7 feet tall.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, he towers above the octagon.
That's why they call him the Skyscraper.
And yet, it's still just not an exciting fight. Like, he's not. I mean, at 7 feet tall, it's hard to be just ridiculously athletic. But he's just not an exciting fighter for me.
All right. Well, someone that is an exciting fighter that I'm excited to see, this is a prelim guy who's finally made it to the main event card, is Sean O'Malley. They call him Sugar.
Yeah.
This guy can fight, man. Like, yeah. I can't wait. He comes in.
He's going to put on a show.
He's got this, he's basically got like this, curly afro type thing, and he walks in the ring and he can throw hands. I like this guy. So I can't wait to see him. I mean, he kind of reminds me of a skilled Charlie Brenneman.
Yeah, I could see this.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about this, though? These guys are unranked on the main card, and the other 135 fighters who are ranked in the prelims.
That's crazy. I don't know who put that together, but I'm glad Sean O'Malley made it to the main card.
Yeah.
In the co-main event, Frankie the Answer Edgar faces off against Brian T. City Ortega. Now, Brian Ortega is a specialist at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, almost all of the fights that I've seen him win have been by some type of submission, whereas you have Frankie Edgar, who is probably one of the most skilled strikers in the UFC. I mean, this guy has elite hands for a mixed martial arts fighter. And so this is going to be, they say styles make fights. This is one you've got a grappler versus a striker, and I think this is going to be well worth the price of admission. I'm gonna call this one fight of the night.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I think the next card or the next fight will be fight of the night. This one could get interesting because, yes, Brian Ortega is an amazing grappler, but in my experience, the grappler versus the striker tends to be a lot slower match because Frankie's going to spend his entire time defending takedowns.
All right, we'll see. The main event of the evening is Chris Cyborg versus Yana Kunitskaya.
The knockout artist meet.
I'm not feeling it. Before we watched this, before we went on the air, I watched some of Yana Kunitskaya's fights, and let me just say, I'm about as impressed with Yana Kunitskaya as I am with Angela Hill.
All right.
I mean,
let's be honest. It's going to be tough to find a decent fight for Chris Cyborg. You got to throw someone in there.
You're right, but I mean, it's to me, it's kind of like feeding the. You have this lion who wants to go and hunt, and instead you basically just give it like a steak and be like, "Here's a steak. Feed the lion." Like, let her hunt, man. Where's Megan Anderson at? That's the fight that needs to happen. Not Yana Kunitskaya. Let me tell you why Yana Kunitskaya is a bad fight for Chris Cyborg. Number one, she's tall. So I give her that she's tall, but she is relatively thin. Like, she is not a big woman. She's tall, but not big.
Yeah.
Number 2, she beat Tonya Evinger. Remember, Chris Cyborg won the belt by beating Tonya Evinger. So Yana Kunitskaya beat Tonya Evinger as well, whereas Chris Cyborg bludgeoned Tonya Evinger.
Humbled. Yeah.
Kunitskaya won by armbar, and it was really just a really awkward fight. So, when you look at the one fight that's between them that they share, which is Tonya Evinger, Chris Cyborg literally destroyed her. Like, it wasn't even entertaining. So
but she didn't get the knockout, which is what we all anticipated. But then I personally made the argument that she was trying not to, just so that that people wouldn't be too afraid to fight her.
I'm gonna tell you like this: Kunitskaya doesn't go 2 rounds with Chris Cyborg. I watched there's a Hawaiian fighter that Kunitskaya fought. The Hawaiian fighter was smaller, a bit quicker, and she just teed off on Kunitskaya's face. You put the power of Chris Cyborg behind those punches, and Holly Holm will look like a beauty queen next to Kunitskaya. Remember, we thought Holly Holm was a battered woman after she faced Chris Cyborg. I'm telling you, Kunitskaya goes 2 rounds tops. It's going to be one of those times where faces get rearranged, that Chris Cyborg gets accused of being too brutal, and that we need to put one of those masks from Silence of the Lambs on her face, put her in a straitjacket.
Well, we'll see on Saturday.
We will see on Saturday. So, with that, follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan.
And I am at CST_KC.
You can check out the website at www.combatsportstalk.com, and you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, like our page, and Instagram. Oh, guess where else you can find us?
SoundCloud.
I already said it.
We already said that. You can find us.
You can find us on
the internet.
Let's take context clues again. You can find us on don't Instagram. Do it. Just say it. You can find us on YouTube. We're on YouTube finally. So yeah, we've got.
I thought you were going to say Uber because the U. No, okay.
You know what? I'm going to get that Price is Right. Boom, 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 boom. So every time you tell one of those jokes that just falls flat, I'm going to play that boom, 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 boom.
This is why I need kids to justify my dad jokes.
Hey, you just
that and to satisfy my parents. But
yeah,
that's
you just slow down on the having the kids thing. So yes, you can find us on YouTube now. I'm really excited. What I'm hoping is that in the future we can do actually live video of us talking, but right now it's a replay of our audio podcast, and so look for us there as well. You got anything else before we cut out?
Nope.
All right, well, let's get out of here then. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. KC Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For KC Onyebuchi, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.